I'll now call the regular meeting Tuesday, November 26, to order. Item 2.1, adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, as amended to include item 8.4, correspondence from Valemount Seniors Housing Society regarding CPT funds, and item 9.5, staff report regarding the lease of office space at the Community Services Building. Any further additions? Shouldn't be at this point. All in favor? Carries. We have now time for public comment. Under item 3.1, comments and questions will be regarding an item on the current agenda, and please use the podium. Questions and comments put forth must be on topics that are not normally dealt with by village staff as a matter of routine. They shall be addressed through myself, and answers given likewise. Debates with or by individual members of council or staff were not allowed during the public comment period. No commitments shall be made by council in replying to a questions matters which may require action of council shall be tabled to a future meeting of this council. Bylaws and temporary use permits that have been considered at a public hearing but have not yet received final approval shall not be raised during this time. Individuals must state their name and simply their area, not their address of residence, for identification purposes. And then we will be limited to 2 minutes for your comments, and beginning after you are welcome to this council. Are there any public comments this evening?
Your Worship.
Hi, welcome.
I have to.
It's not audible, it's just for the benefit of people at home.
Okay, good.
We can hear you just fine.
My name is Beth Russell. I live in Valemount. I want to speak about the letter in your reading files from the Senior Citizens Housing Society. I'm also a board member on this housing society. I am a retired nurse. Most of my career I worked in Jasper, in the old hospital, and then the new hospital when it opened. And then I worked here as well. Eventually, after that, an addition to the hospital was added. A bright, well-run assisted living and long-term care wing, complete with a huge common area. This was a place to eat. All residents ate there. It was a place for visitors and residents to gather, a place to play cards, do puzzles, sing songs. Residents from Jasper received visitors often. Friends, neighbors, sons and daughters, and grandchildren. Sometimes just popping in for a quick visit. We had residents who were from Valemount. Their number of visitors were much less in number. Time restraints, a long drive with poor roads, and for some, a lack of their own transportation was a problem. Despite our staff's and other visitors' efforts to brighten their day, these Valemount residents were certainly more prone to deep sadness, lethargy, and depression. I found the situation for them very heartbreaking. Seniors' care facilities can be a lonely place, even though our hospital in Jasper, or a similar facility anywhere, tries their best to make it a homey place.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
That's it? Oh, okay, thank you.
Are there any further public comments this evening?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hahn. I live on 8th Place here in Valemount.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. So I listened to the last meeting's discussion on the utility increases, and I was.
Keep your comments to this evening's agenda item, please.
Oh, okay. Well, then I can't say anything more because that's what it's about.
Thank you. Further public comments this evening?
Hi, Your Worship. My name is Linda Hedberg, and I live in Valemount. I'm here to speak on the letter from the Senior Citizens Housing Society. I have no personal story to tell tonight, like you will be hearing. but I am familiar with the ones that will be told tonight. These are stories of pioneers and builders of our community. To think of these people who have to leave home and get care as they age just seems so wrong and so sad. It is stories like this that have encouraged this group to form, to work together, to work towards getting an assisted living and long-term care, which is so desperately needed in Valemount. There are people right now still in their homes who really should not be there because they need more care. Who knows for sure why this is? It could be because they either don't want to leave or just have no place to go. There is one resident that I personally know of who spends the majority of his days in bed in a dark bedroom, just waiting for help he does get to come. I leave his meal from Meals on Wheels there for him, but have no idea when he gets it. Yes, the home care that is provided in Valemount is wonderful, but for some, it is just not enough. We are here tonight to ask Council for their support in helping to move this quest for more care forward. We have had verbal support from other organizations and from a wide range of individuals. We will also be seeking written support from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment this evening?
My name is Betty Hannes and I live in Valemount.
Welcome.
I'm going to speak about the urgent need of care in Valemount. My sisters and I live in Valemount and have lived here for many years. My mother came here as a baby. My mother suffered a stroke in 2005 and was transported to Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops. She remained there for many weeks. When Mum was discharged from the hospital, there was a temporary opening in Clearwater Hospital in the extended care. This location is 200 kilometers from our home, but there was nothing else available. After Mum's stay in Clearwater, my sisters and I decided that we would care for her at home. This was very expensive because we had to buy many items, hydraulic lifts, wheelchairs, and other quite expensive equipment. We would have loved to keep Mum in her home, but the job became too exhausting for the three of us, and an opening came up in the extended care in Jasper Hospital. While this was a wonderful place, it was still not close to home. The distance from Valemount to Jasper is 120 kilometers. My sister and I drove every day for the first weeks until Mum got settled. After she was settled, we drove at least once and twice a week to Jasper. We drove through highways that were busy, highways that had ice, and driving was not a pleasant situation. Our mother lived in the home in Jasper for 7 years until her death. This was a long time to be away from her community, from her family, from the place she raised her family, from her grandchildren, and the elderly friends who were unable to visit. If there had been an extended care home in Valemount, those 7 years of her life and ours would have been so much better. There are more and more elderly people experiencing the same difficulties in Valemount and the surrounding area. It is quite distressing to see parents placed in care homes so removed from family, friends, and all things familiar to them. Respectfully yours, Shirley Taylor, Betty Hannes, and Joan Christelbrink.
Thank you, Mrs. Hannes. Further public comment this evening?
Worship and everyone here.
Your name and area of residence, please.
Okay, Ann McCurdy Carson is my name. In 2013, with our parents' care needs increasing, we hired care workers and worked many volunteer hours ourselves to provide 24-hour care for our mom and dad. We did this for over a year. Then funds dwindled, we burned out, and Dad passed on while in respite care. Our mom has lived in McBride Long-Term Care Facility for over 5 years. Between the efforts of 3 of her children, she has received visits on an average twice a week. This has been a big commitment for us to carry through. If Mom were in Valemount, she would have received daily visits from family members and friends. Winter road conditions can be unsafe. Sometimes we choose not to drive because of the conditions, or we drive slowly. For some Valemount families, the highway drive is a barrier to their visiting their loved one. A rough calculation of the fuel costs for our combined trips over 5 years is $10,500, money better spent on a local facility. The drive, combined with a longer visit because it's on a weekly rather than a daily basis, takes a lot of effort. There's not much energy left for other activities on that day. If Mum were in Valemount, we would drop in for shorter times and combine it with our regular commitment. There are presently more residents in the long-term facility in McBride from Valemount than from McBride. The McBride facility has a beautiful community garden and a state-of-the-art bathing room. Some good meals are provided in this kitchen. Beyond that, the hospital structure is not conducive to providing a home-like atmosphere. For stimulation, there is a TV. Combined with the fewer visitors because of the distance, there's too little stimulation for our seniors, even with their diminishing capabilities. Fortunately for our family... Okay.
Are there further public comments this evening?
Anya Carleena, 8th Avenue. Have a general comment about, I just feel if we can increase the time to hear out these stories, because I find them important and I'm very concerned that we cannot hear these people out.
Thank you. Is there further public comments this evening?
Eugene Jamin, Valemount. We have a voice, a place where these comments can come to, and that's the Valemount Housing Committee. I would really like to reinforce that this is where the comments are addressed to, and that we seek jointly what is best for Valemount. And also with the proposal from the Robson Valley Support Society, Community Services, that we look at it as a total, that we aren't funding individual projects that may be working against each other, that we have collaborative effort in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
So my name is Rashmi Narayan and I live in Valemount.
Welcome.
My comment is also about Senior Citizen Housing Society's request. And I want to speak to a different aspect. One is when I wrote a letter to council 2 weeks ago that was about setting some money aside from the community initiatives pot. I know y'all decided to explore that idea further, and since then at that point I didn't have any specific project in mind, and since I wrote that letter in the letter to the editor in the paper last week, I've had feedback from many folks in Eora and Varda who feel like it's a good project. Even some of them have scaled down their ask for the upcoming year just hearing about this. So I know there's public support. I know it's important to council to follow due process and while allocating this money, but one of my concerns is while Eora and Varda and other organizations can put a call on Facebook and get their people to come to the public meeting, seniors can't do that. Like, they can't drive at night. Those needing care are not able to get out. So I am concerned that process is going to already not take into consideration people who are not getting their voices heard. So I don't know how we mitigate that. I understand due process is important, but I'm also concerned their voices are not going to be heard. So, thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment this evening? Motion please to receive public comment. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. All in favor of receipt? Carries. Before we adopt the minutes of the previous meeting, just like to bid welcome to everybody, but also to some delegates from the Prince George area. Director Art Kane, Chair of the Regional District, welcome. And Chief Administrative Officer Jim Martin with the Regional District, welcome. So on to item 4.1, adoption of the minutes of the previous regular council meeting, November 12th. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. Are there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carries. Item 4.2, adoption of the minutes of the previous public hearing. That same night, November 12, 2019. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean. Any errors or omissions arising? All in favor? Carries. We have some correspondence for action this evening under 7.1 and 7.2, but 7.1, proposed public building at R.W. Sterrett Marsh, request for letter of support. There is a staff recommendation. What is council's wish? Move the recommendation that a letter of support be provided to the Regional District Fraser Fort George regarding the proposed development of an amphitheater-style building at R.W. Sterrett Cranberry Marsh. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pearson. Discussion.
I mean, I was at the proposal. It's a great project. It's got a lot of support behind it, and I think it should be a good to go,
Yeah,
you know.
there's going to be a lot of players in this game.
Yep.
It's not going to happen tomorrow, even with a letter of support.
Yep.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carries. 7.2, we have a proposed season greetings parade wanting to take place during late night shopping festivities. What's council's wish? Councillor Blanchette? Councillor, the recommendation? Yep. That a seniors greeting parade to take place in conjunction with late night shopping be supported by council, subject to confirmation that the parade time and route will not interfere with other late night shopping festivities, and the Canoe Valley Community Association meeting liability insurance requirements for the proposed event. You're good to second that? Discussion?
Exciting.
All in favor? Carries. Is there anything anybody would wish to pull out of the reading file? I will start with, if nobody else, with Mrs. Recky's letter, highlighting some concerns as she's a viewer from home. Had an opportunity to call Mrs. Recky today. We had a nice chat. Got some clarity around the 8.5% increase for the across the board with and keeping the discount in place. I do owe her an apology. I did my best to have speakers, public comments of that nature head to the podium so people at home have the benefit of hearing those comments, but when staff were asked for clarification, it wasn't a requirement, and so those at home were not able to take advantage of staff's wisdom in those responses. So in the future, I'll have staff approach the podium as well. And then we touched a little bit on the truck replacement, replacing out a very old truck in the Public Works facility. She had mentioned that we did a kind of a road test of an electric vehicle, but it was very quickly deduced that we were not purchasing that truck. And then finally, a reminder that she mentions owners over the age of 65 do not have to pay yearly taxes. However, people over the age of 55, I reminded her, have the ability to apply through the province for a tax deferral system based on income, mortgage, clean, nothing in arrears, things of that nature. So the province can help in that regard. So that was my conversation with her. In terms of the Valemount Senior Citizens Housing Society request to council, I deeply appreciate the comments made this evening. I will make a case that we do have an agreement with the Columbia Basin Trust. That agreement says that we will take things to, that we make aware, the community aware that this program is here. We have deadlines and processes, public advertising and community meetings. We establish a local selection committee, in our case it's an adjudication committee, to make recommendations to council based on the applications that they receive. We have to ensure that we have at least one public meeting to solicit community input. We have to let the community aware which projects have been approved, so they have the ability to comment on the decisions made by the village and the recommendations from the adjudication committee. And that finally, in that agreement, Columbia Basin Trust staff have the ability to attend all public and in-camera adjudication meetings, and that the village provide the trust with a list of all applicants. That being said, there has been some history behind how the village has been able to take advantage of said funds. This agreement is valid 2016. Years prior, the land that we are sitting on was put forward to community input with money not set aside, but it was through community input that X amount of dollars would be put towards land purchase of this building. Fast forward to 2015, 16, and 17, Tourism Valemount did a couple of applications looking at the boardwalk trail, and I believe Canada Day celebrations in 2017. I encourage everyone as a community group to make an application, and if the capacity is not found within that organization to fully take advantage of our grant writer here at the village, they are supported by NDIT financially, they are supported financially by Valemount Community Forest. That staff person's job is to assist all of the community in the grant writing application process. So I encourage any and all, again, community groups, get an application in, put it out there for community input. The stories here were heart-wrenching, and I know something like this would have broad community support. So that's my piece to the Valemount Senior Citizens Housing Society. One more, council does not have the authority to withhold money. It goes through a process like everyone else. That is the agreement we have with Columbia Basin Trust. It expires next year. Perhaps based on the public comments we've received tonight, we should be looking at perhaps 2 or 3 public input sessions throughout the process, not just one as the minimum. So something to consider going into the nearing expiry of the Community Initiatives Program.
Can I make a comment?
Of course.
So as some people may or may not know, Councillor Pearson and I meet with the seniors the first Monday of every month. And so we have some things in play that we're trying to work on towards getting what we need here. And so maybe what we can do, Councillor Pearson, is pull off the CIP applications because they are ready, and we can take it and we can talk to the seniors board and see what they're thinking and see if we can get that into play.
Okay. Thanks for doing that. Anything else in the reading file? On to 9.1, council appointments 2020. Separate resolutions. Number 1, that Councillors Blanchette, G, and MacLean be appointed to the parcel tax roll review panel. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. That Councillor Pearson be appointed to the Tourism Committee, Tourism Valemount Committee, and Councillor G as the alternate. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion. All in favor? It's carried. That Councillor G be appointed to the Columbia Basin Trust Community Initiatives and Affected Area Programs Committee, Adjudication Committee. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. That Councillors Blanchette and MacLean be appointed to the Clean Air Task Force. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion. It's a big one. All in favor? Carries. That Councillor Blanchette be appointed to the Northern Health as the Northern Health Liaison. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. That Councillor Blanchette be appointed to the Housing Committee. Councillor Pearson, Councillor MacLean. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. that Councillor Pearson be appointed to the Valemount Historic Society. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette, discussion, carries. That Councillor G be appointed to the Prince George Treaty Advisory Committee. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion, all in favor, carries. That Councillor MacLean be appointed to the Valemount Entertainment Society. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion, all in favor, carries. Councillor Pearson be appointed to the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Association and myself as the alternate. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette, discussion, all in favor, carries. That myself be appointed to the Municipal Finance Authority of BC as liaison with Councillor G as the alternate. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion, all in favor, carries. That Councillor MacLean be appointed to the Municipal Insurance Association of BC as liaison and Councillor Blanchette as the alternate. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion, all in favor, carries. That Councillor G be appointed as our Simp First Nation liaison. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion, all in favor, carries. That Councillor MacLean be appointed to the Columbia River Treaty Local Government Committee. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion, all in favor, carries. And finally, that Councillor MacLean be appointed to the Columbia Basin Regional Advisory Committee. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion, all in favor, carries. Thank you all for fruitful discussion as we went throughout this process. Item 9.2, Community Services Building Accessibility Renovations. There is a request for proposals. I think we'll just read out the recommendations and see what council would like to do with them. Number one, that the following 2019 request for proposals be terminated, and a request to supply and deliver accessibility renovations for the Village of Valemount Community Services Building, and request to supply and install accessible doors for the Village of Valemount Community Services Building. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion. All in favor? Carries. Second recommendation here, that staff review the Village of Valemount Community Services accessibility projects and revise as required in order to stay within the grant provided by the Rick Hansen Foundation in the amount of $17,810. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. Councillor Blanchette.
I would ask that staff reach out to RVCS and talk about the grant and what's really needed in there, that maybe they can find something that will fit within that grant budget amount.
Might be a little niche in there.
Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carries. 9.3, Northern Development Initiative Trust, the Love Valemount Program. Recommendation here that staff be directed to apply to the NDIT Love Northern BC program for 2020. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion on the Love Valemount project in Love Northern BC.
It's a great project. It's had lots of benefit within our community, and I highly support it.
Awesome. Further discussion? All in favor? Carries. We have a 9.4 Affordable Housing Development Plan. We have a recommendation that a letter be sent to the Valemount Community Forest requesting permission to use the granted $3,000 to verify the target tenant demographic for the Valemount Affordable Housing Development Plan application. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion. All in favor? Carries. New item, 9.5, Community Services Building, Robson Valley Community Services Lease Agreement. We'll handle this in two separate motions, please. That effective January 1st, 2020, the RVCS lease be amended to include the additional second floor office space to be vacated by the Valemount Learning Society. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion. All in favor? It carries. And that staff, per the community charter, be directed to advertise a notice of disposition with respect to the additional office space to be leased to the Robson Valley Community Services. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. All in favor? Carries. Bylaws and policies. Item 10.1, Village of Valemount Reserve Fund Bylaw number 804, 2019. Recommendation here be adopted as presented. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion on final adoption. All in favor? Carries. In 10.2, Village of Valemount Business License and Regulation Bylaw number 805, 2019. Recommendation 1, Village of Valemount Business License and Regulation Bylaw 805, 2019 be given first and second reading. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson. Discussion on first and second. All in favor? Carries. And that per section 59 of the Community Charter, notice is given of council's intent to proceed with this bylaw number 805, 2019 prior to a public hearing to be held on December 10th, 2019. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion on notification. Hearing none, all in favor? Carries. Item 10.3, the Village of Valemount Council Remuneration Bylaw number 811, 2019 be adopted as presented. Councillor MacLean, Councillor Blanchette, discussion on final adoption. All in favor? Carries. Item 10.4, Village of Valemount Fees and Charges Bylaw number 813, 2019 be given first, second, and third reading as presented. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion on first, second, and third. All in favor? Carries. Council reports. Councillor Blanchette.
I only have one thing to report because I was away at the Housing Committee meeting. Was the housing facilitated meeting that we had with stakeholders and Charles Scott. It was sort of part 2. It was a really good meeting. Started to put all of the pieces into place, moving forward. Spring is coming soon. That's why we wanted to move that fund around too, to see what we can do and find out where we need to apply for who. So we're getting down to crunch. So, and I would ask that the people that had written out letters, if you're okay with me having them, I have a file that I'm saving those for when we go to our next project. Any of the letters that you're okay with me having, we'll put together. Okay, we'll bring those on Monday. That's it.
Thank you. Is Mr. Scott facilitating on Monday as well?
No, he came on the 2 Fridays, so his time was very valuable, and we were really lucky to have him.
Such an awesome speaker.
He is really great, and he gets you all pumped up and ready, and you're like, I can take on the world, Yeah.
He certainly has that ability. Councillor Pearson?
Only one thing on my calendar was the November 19th special meeting of council regarding the change of time for the meeting.
Busy couple of weeks. Councillor MacLean?
The same. I attended the special meeting of council on November 19th, and that was it.
Must be a shoulder season somewhere. November 15th, I had an opportunity to reach out to the Fairbanks North Star Borough Air Quality Division. One of their lab techs up there is working on a pilot project involving electrostatic precipitators. They are a filter that you put on, it's an aftermarket filter that you put on your chimney. They have the same, they have a similar topography, cooler winters, microinversions, similar air quality issues that we have. I just wanted to bend his ear on the pilot project that's happening up there. Their wood stove exchange program, how that's working, their conversion from oil to, the other similarity, they don't have natural gas. So they too are looking at trucking in natural gas to change out stove oil, that sort of thing. So their case study is due out in March, and Nick is ecstatic to be sharing that information with us. So Hopefully have something to the Air Quality Committee task force
January?
in March.
But we're meeting in January.
This case study won't be ready for you to receive it. A special meeting in council on the 19th. And then on the 20th, for regional district, attended the volunteer fire department sustainability learning session on how our 13 volunteer fire departments service our region and region-wide, how they integrate, how they train, funding moving forward, what that looks like long-term, staff support from the regional district. Just an awesome 3-hour session. And then immediately following on the 21st, regional subcommittees and board, open board meeting. The 22nd and 23rd, I traveled to Cranbrook for Columbia Basin Trust board meetings and attended the regional district Trans Mountain temporary use permit community consultation meeting this evening. That's my report. Motion please to receive. Councillors MacLean and Pearson, any questions of the reporting? All in favor of receipt? Carries. We'll now, under 14.1, give notice to proceed in camera for 2 items per section 90, 1C and E of the community charter to discuss matters related to C, labor relations and other employee relations, and E, the acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Councillors Blanchette, Pearson, all in favor? And now close the open meeting. Thank you all for coming.